Welcome everyone. My name is Iman.
And I'm Amal.
And welcome to another episode of the Weird and Wonderful podcast. So for today, we're talking about something super interesting, which is jobs. All aspects of jobs. So why
the aspects that we know about.
The aspects that we know, because, we're still young, so we don't have too much experience, but just enough to maybe comment.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with Amal, you telling us a little bit about your experience with jobs?
Not good.
Okay, what was your first job?
My first job was in the academic office, the same one as you.
Okay.
Right after you left.
And that was in university?
Yes, in university. I got a summer job.
Okay.
Yeah. But does volunteering count?
Yeah, sure. Volunteering counts.
Yeah, no. I had a volunteering gig. Is that what you'd say? Yeah, I had a volunteering thing going on for 2 years, but then the first real job where I got money was in that summer job.
How old were you?
I think I was 19.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 19.
I was 19 the first time I got my first job as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was a summer orientation leader at our university.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
And I was so nervous because it was my very first job.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never had experience with... Yeah, I interviewed for things before, like clubs or whatever. But this was like a real full-blown job. Mm-hmm. And I remember after finding out that I got it, I went into orientation and we all had to say a little bit about ourselves. I think there were 9 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the only one who this was my first job.
Right.
At 19, 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And all these other, given it was Canada.
Right.
So I think in the West, a lot of people, teenagers mostly, already have experience with working.
Definitely.
And us in Asia, we don't really have that.
Yeah.
Or at least maybe where we came from,
Right.
it was just focus on school.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you don't need a job until you graduate.
Until you actually need a job. Kind of thing. Yeah.
But I think having a job...
Oh, sorry, actually meaning a real...
As in after you graduate, you're not in school.
Yeah.
But I really feel having a job when you're young teaches you so many important skills.
Yes, I think so too. Right, yeah, definitely bouncing off from what you said about learning when you're... learning a lot when you have a job when you're young.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, when I would talk to my classmates or whatnot when I was in university, they would all be like, oh yeah, when I worked with kids with disabilities, or when I worked with this, when I had that summer job, it always made me feel like, whoa, I have no experience. And these people really do have experience. They've worked for years, or they stay on from where they worked during the summer kind of thing. And I feel like that's really cool and really good for development in that sense.
Because I feel like a lot of younger people in Malaysia these days, when they start their first job after university, they don't have that skill set that maybe some people in the West may have.
Right.
This is their first job. They've been in school how?
Oh, and we're not saying that the West is better.
No, not at all.
We're just comparing how it's different.
We're just comparing what we know as well.
Yeah, just put that out there so that it's not misconstrued.
There may be facets that we don't know, but basically I feel that a lot of people may be confused when they get to a first job here in Malaysia because they've never experienced office culture before. It's just been in universities or clubs and societies with friends. Right. And now you actually have a boss. You have to get dressed up every day if you work maybe in a corporate office.
Right.
And interact with all these people of different age groups, because before it was only people who were essentially the same age as you.
Yeah, from school. Yeah.
Yeah, so when you get to a new environment like that, how do you deal with
that?
With being, a fresh graduate working at her job or his job for the very first time.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because you've never experienced that.
Yeah, I've never had a corporate job. I'm not in a corporate job. But...
well, I could say that, I've worked... not a corporate job, but I've worked in an office job with other people before. Right. And my first experience coming back to Malaysia was an eye-opener for me. Right. Because for the very first time, so the first time I went in for my very first job interview, I instantly felt judged.
Okay.
Just waiting in the waiting room for my interview, I felt like they were judging me for what I was wearing, and how I looked. And obviously I had some makeup on because you need to look presentable, but I just felt like...
That's something I don't relate to.
But I just felt like, wow, is this place always going to be this judgy? Like, if this is the kind of place that I'm going to be working at, I don't really want to work here.
Right.
But alhamdulillah, I got the job, and I later found out that, you know, they are good people, and, you know, maybe that was just like the first impression, and that I shouldn't be so judgmental. But then I've also learned that there are so many different facets to working in an office. Firstly, office politics.
Office politics, yeah.
Office politics is like a really big thing, because there are cliques, and, you know, there are some people that are like the cool kids, so to speak. Because even in the office world, there are cool kids.
Yeah, definitely. When I did that summer job, they already had... It wasn't like really big or anything, but there was some sort of underlying current, and I was basically an outsider. So I could just like observe all these things and like, oh, that person's annoyed with that person, I can tell because I already know that person doesn't really like this. So there's just like a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, and definitely the first week of when you start a new job is like really hard, because firstly you're the new kid, and then you don't know who hangs out with who, or like who does what, and there are all these new people with all these new names. Where do you go to lunch on the first day? Like, is anybody going to ajak you to lunch?
It's like high school.
It's high school all over again. The entire first week at my new job, when I first came back, I had lunch at my desk by myself. And I saw everyone downstairs, like at the pantry, all having lunch together. And I just felt like I wasn't cool enough to go downstairs and hang out.
See, branching off of that, I think it's also very important for people who are already pre-existing in a certain place. If there's a new person, you should ask that person if they want to join you, because, you know, I feel like everyone's been that new person. So if you're no longer the new person, I feel like it's important for people to reach out to that new person. Even though I have been guilty of not reaching out to the new person. This is a reminder from myself, because sometimes, you know, I'm just tired. I don't really want to ask you where you're from, you know, but yeah.
So what are some attitudes that you think, okay, as a fresh grad going to her job for the first time, what are some attitudes that you think that you should have? For me, my number one would be to look for work. Like, don't just like wait for work to come to you, because sometimes, you know, you may be new, you may be figuring out stuff, but everyone else has been at this job for a while, and they are all like doing their own thing, and they don't really have time to like coach you one-on-one off the bat. So always be the one to ask, is there anything I can help you with? Is there anything I can do? Do you need help getting this? Do you need help getting that? And just accept that for the first little bit, you're going to be the runt of the litter. Like, you are the lowest rung. Like, I feel like every time you come into a new job or a new place, you should accept that you are the lowest, and you got to work your way up.
Like when I was I keep going back to this one job, but yeah, no, I had to look for work, and there were some points where they had nothing for me to do. I just had to input names into a spreadsheet. They're like, oh yeah, I guess Amal could do that. And I would do it. Or there was one time there was nothing for me to do. They were like, do you want to decorate our office for Canada Day? So for like 3 days, I just sat at my desk and cut out maple leaves.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So
imagine if it was like Malaysia Day and you had to cut out like a crescent and the stars.
I wouldn't have done that.
There's like 40
I'd be like, nope. No, and then like after that, Canada Day was over, and they were like, do you want to decorate our office for the fall? So again, I sat at my table and cut out leaves. So it's just like they have, because you're new and you're not experienced in what they need you to be experienced in yet. They can't really give you anything. And then I don't know,
I guess then we can contrast like, okay, not to say that the jobs that we had are unconventional, but you know, they're like more not so heavy jobs, like traditional jobs, like being a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant, that kind of thing, you know, a traditional Asian path. Do you think there was ever any pressure that you had that was the field that you had to go into?
No, I feel like I'm very grateful for our parents. I feel like they never pressured us to do anything we didn't want. They always asked us, what do you want to do? And I would say, I don't know, I wish you gave me something to do, because I really don't know. I really didn't know. But I feel like on that end, I feel like I don't have any experience there, because alhamdulillah we didn't have. Did you have any pressure?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, we didn't, right?
Alhamdulillah, our parents are very supportive, and I think that's another key thing when you come to a new office, is that you should have proper support.
Yeah.
Even if it's not from the office, like your friends should be like, oh, like happy first day, you know, just be prepared to know that you're going into a different environment.
Right. Correct.
And sorry, just going back to the traditional jobs thing, I think for me, it was very clear that you can go do whatever you want. Like
right.
you can like, I don't know, what's like the most random job? You can like paint murals like by the side of the street, and I think our parents will be fine, you know, as long as you're doing something happy. Right. But on the spectrum, I also know that there are some people whose parents are very focused on, you need to be an engineer, you need to work for this specific company. Correct. If you don't, then you're considered like a failure, or you know, I can't support you doing an unconventional job. Okay, so Amal, you've had a few Skype interviews.
Yes.
Okay, and so how, if somebody was offered to do a Skype interview, walk us through it. Like, what are some do's and don'ts?
Well, be on time. That's what because I had an interview with someone who wasn't in the same country as me, so he was like 4:30 at this time, and I checked like many times to make sure that the time difference was correct. So I do that too. Yeah, that's one thing that you have to. Yeah, and then like for me, because it's just Skype, so it's like from the chest up, so clothing doesn't really matter. For me, it's literally just my tudong for me. I have had a phone interview as well. It wasn't like a Skype because their camera was broken. So it was just talking to like 3 people. Yeah, I guess it's just to not freak out, I guess. Yeah. It's just I stayed as calm as I could. There's not much to it. You're just having a conversation.
But when you're on a Skype or a phone interview, I feel like it's slightly different than in person.
Yes,
because
I think so.
in person you can read off the person's body language, and when they're like thinking, you don't say something to like distract their train of thought. So how did you kind of go about that?
What do you mean? Can you say
like how do you read someone's like cues on Skype, like their social cues on Skype?
I think the face is pretty powerful in itself. Like the Skype one where the camera was on, my interviewer was he was very happy. He seemed very excited about me. So that
hi, Amal!
Yeah, he was like, hi, we really liked your application, and he was very nice. So I feel like a lot of that I owe the success of that interview to my interviewer. You know, he was very friendly. He put me at ease. He was great, you know. So I was so that was good. I
think with first time interviewers there are several like cardinal rules that you should follow. So firstly, when they email you to like offer the interview, accept it. I feel like there is, even if you don't want the job or you feel like you're not going to end up doing it, I think you should still go for the interview.
Really?
Yeah, I think so, because it's good practice. Even if you should go, and if you decide after, if they offer you or if they don't, it's a good experience either way. You get to practice your interviewing skills. So always write back and say, yes, I'm coming. Always bring an extra set of resumes, because you never know. I brought like 3 sets of my resume just in case like one got eaten by a dog, it rained and it got wet, you know, like things like that. Always be prepared, and always be on time for the interview.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I cannot stress how important it is to be on time,
because that in itself is a first impression.
Correct.
You know.
Correct. Yeah. And then so once you dress properly, I think appropriately, like how would you dress if you had to go? I probably shouldn't be asking him all these questions. Anyway, I think you should dress professionally.
Yeah, no, I know. I just have a problem with knowing how to dress. Like I know you have to dress professionally, but then I feel like my gauge is a bit off.
Yeah. Which striped shirt should I wear? You know, I always think a nice pair of pants is important. Maybe don't look like a waiter. Like, don't wear black pants and a white shirt. I feel like that's kind of overdone. Don't be too overdressed either. Like, you don't need to wear a blazer or a tie. Like, casual, like smart casual, I think is important. And if you are...
Or you have to iron your clothes, apparently.
Yes. Ironing clothes is so important. Nobody likes... I mean, if you were interviewing to be a lawyer and you showed up in a crinkled white shirt, you probably like that's not a very good impression. And I think that the first 10 minutes really, because I've been on both sides. I've been interviewed and I've been the interviewer. So I really think that first like 5-10 minutes of just tell me a little bit about yourself is so important. I think you should just obviously talking about your university or your education is like cool, but also make yourself sound a bit different. Like, okay, my name is Iman. I was born in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I'm the eldest of 4.
Details like that.
Yeah, details like that. I think are interesting.
In one of my 4th year classes, my professor was talking about how the whole dressing thing is important, so that your interviewers won't be focusing on that.
Right.
Because it's just a given that you must follow this set of rules. So you follow them so that they won't distract them from what's important, which is the conversation that they're going to have with you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the point of dressing well, so that they wouldn't be. Because she said there was once that a PhD student came in to give their
thesis
presentation thingy. I can't remember. I don't know what it's called. And she came in with flip-flops. So instead of them being able to concentrate on what she was talking about, they were all like, why is she wearing flip-flops?
Was it cold?
I don't know.
Was it summer?
I have no idea. But the point she was trying to say is that follow these rules so that we can concentrate on what's important in the setting. You know what I mean?
Please, guys, don't wear flip-flops.
Yeah.
Normal shoes.
I wish we could wear Birkenstocks, but I know we can't. So
there was actually, you're right. There's this once I was interviewing a girl for a position, and it's a position where you need it to look presentable, and we just have to accept some jobs you need to look a certain way.
Even I am the most slakey person ever. I know that.
Yeah, so some jobs you need to look a certain way. So this girl,
I've come to terms with it.
She had come in and she looked nice. She was pretty, whatever. But she did her eyebrows, and Amal doesn't do her eyebrows, so she probably doesn't know this. But she had lined them, and she put concealer underneath here, like underneath the eyebrow, and she didn't what's it called? Blend it in. So it was so harsh, like the line.
Right.
So the entire interview, I was just like looking at her eyebrow, thinking, why did she not blend in her concealer? You know, it's like little things like that that you really need to put thought into.
It seems superficial, but the thing is, it does affect people for some reason.
Yeah.
You know, because what you see affects you most. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. In like a professional setting, because people tend to, I don't know if judge is too harsh of a word, but like people tend to like take away what.
In an interview, you are judged, Mal. You are judged.
Like that first impression is what's going to stick.
So what do you do when you are rejected from a job? How do you deal with that call or whatever of, I'm so sorry, but you didn't get it?
Right. I am no stranger to that.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh at your rejection.
Oh, no, I know what you mean. Yeah. I know what you mean. Well, I guess the easy thing to say is get over it and go find something else. But
But some people, it's months. It's a whole year of them applying for jobs over and over again.
For sure.
And it's like, no,
Yeah.
you're not good enough.
It sucks. It really sucks. That's why I said like the easy thing to say to people is get over it. But obviously it's not that easy. It hurts. And you just, I guess, I don't know how to advise people, because like when I was going through it, when I got rejected from the schools that I wanted to go to, or, you know, the jobs that I wanted, it was just another thing that I had to deal with. And then I would slowly go look for other things, you know. Mm-hmm. But I can't say for the people who constantly apply, consistently get like rejected. Like I've never been in that position, so I don't know what to say about that, because I obviously it would be painful. Yeah.
I got rejected from a job that I really wanted once in Canada. Mm-hmm. And I wanted it so bad. And I found out I didn't get it. And they told me in person.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they called me in and they said, okay, man, like, you know, you're great, but, you know, we're going to go a different direction.
Oh, no.
And I was okay, you know, I accept, I respect your decision. And I literally walked home from Carlton all the way back to my house.
What job was this?
It was summer orientation leader. Yeah, so it was a year after I was... Right,
so it's still that same program, but
yeah, but just a year later, like, to be the head.
Right.
I didn't get it. I walked an hour home.
Oh my gosh.
Where you take the bus and it'll take me like 50 minutes. I walked all the way home. I think it was like the dead of winter. Like, it was so cold.
Oh my God.
I was so depressed because for me, this was the first time I had ever experienced rejection.
Right.
It was the first time someone had ever told me, no, you're not good enough. Mm-hmm. We are going with someone better.
Right.
And I think the sadness or like the pain that I felt in that moment multiplied like maybe 10, 15 times by all these other fresh graduates that are applying for jobs. I cannot even imagine what that feels. Plus the stress of, I actually have to get a job because now I'm out of university. I'm living in my parents' house. Like I need to make something of myself. Like the motivation to just keep on going, you have to be a very strong person.
Definitely.
And I think that's the only way that we can, that's the only real message that we can share with people, which is you just have to keep going.
Right. And if you've ever feel like, if you've ever felt like you're good but not good enough, friend, you're not alone.
Everybody feels like that.
Because like, I mean, even for one of the grad schools that I applied for, I got waitlisted. I mean, like, waitlisted for the interview. Right. And in that moment, that was when I realized, like, man, I'm sort of good. We're not good enough.
Yeah.
Okay. But alhamdulillah, I did get the interview, and I went and I got the train and took the bus and did all that. And I didn't get it.
Yeah, I know you didn't get it.
I was really, at first I was like, yeah, that's fine, but then I was alone in my room in the dark and I'm just like, oh man, I really didn't get in. And I had like, one lone tear at the side of my face. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do now.
Like, I don't know if we can label like job rejection depression.
No,
because I feel like
that's another,
it's a very heavy like strong
and it's
emotion.
a clinical diagnosis. This is more like a very heavy sadness.
It's like a sadness. And I think that maybe you should look at it on the bright side, which is now while you're applying, always still put usaha, like always look up jobs on LinkedIn or wherever it might be. But also tell yourself that this is the time that you can use to focus on yourself and reevaluate what is important to you. Because once working starts, oh my gosh, like mashallah, that's it. Like you have to know what your work-life balance is. And that's the next thing too. It's like work-life balance. Like how does that play into, because now you've been studying like 18, 20 years, however old you are. And then suddenly it's like, okay, no more schooling, like go find a job and then do your own thing. So for me, work-life balance is extremely important. Coming from a Western background, educational background, and working in Canada, over there, it's like, it's 8 to 5, 8 to 4:30, whatever it is. That's it. Lights shut off. Everyone goes home.
And then you don't work at home.
You don't work from home. Like you enjoy the rest of your time with your family, friends, whatever it is. But I've come to find that here in Malaysia, mashallah, it's like a totally different culture. It's like if you go home
on time, people are going to be like judging you.
Yeah. Like if you are not at your desk at like 8, 9 o'clock at night, and I'm speaking firstly for my personal experience and also the experiences of those people around me who do have corporate jobs, it's like you are not a good employee if you go home on time.
Yeah, at 5 when you should.
Yeah, you know, so, and it's also become a culture of like, we're always on our phones, and the fact that we have like WhatsApp groups with our bosses work colleagues, not about like frilly stuff,
but like about work.
Yes, and the fact that we are so connected that our bosses can like call us in the middle of the night being like, I want this thing now and now. I'm like, is anybody going to die if you have to wait another 9 hours till I get in the office?
Right.
Like, I think the shift or the cultural understanding of what it is to work in Malaysia specifically is that it's so blown out of perspective.
Right.
It's almost crazy for me to think that, you know, my husband can get a call at night at like midnight to ask for something that's only due next week, and it's like he wants it like now at midnight. I'm like, he goes into the office in like 9 hours. Like, you should sleep, you know? Yeah. It's this, I don't know, maybe it's just something that I don't understand.
I don't understand either.
Maybe it's just this ethic of working that I don't get. But for me, work is work. But what are the experiences that you live outside?
Right.
What are the experiences that you have with your friends, with your family? Like, in the end, when you die, are you really going to think, oh, that was a great board paper that I presented in 25, you know, when I was 25? Or are you going to think about, oh, that amazing holiday that you had with your family?
Right.
it's just, I know, I think that we as a society need to reevaluate work-life balance.
Yeah,
and just understand
the priorities, where your priorities lie. And then okay, this is purely from talking to other people, and know that I have no experience, so please forgive me if, like, you know, I say something that's not. But like, you have, they call it work-life balance, and then they make you go on a trip with your colleagues for team building. So when do you get that the life part of the work-life balance, you know? Like, if I worked in a corporate office, I wouldn't want to spend my weekend doing some team building exercise, learn how to, I mean, get in a group and make sure the egg doesn't crack. Like, I don't want to do that on the weekend, you know, with my colleagues.
Yeah.
Like, if you want me to have work-life balance, let me spend time at home.
Yeah.
With the people in my life.
Correct.
You know?
And
I don't know.
And it's also just the boundary. So like,
Right.
how far do you take work boundaries? So how is it that you deal with bosses who don't respect boundaries?
Get another job. I don't know.
You know, I think it's hard because I think in this day and age, especially, like, we spend most of our time with people in the office.
Right.
More so than our families. We're in the office like 12 hours a day. We go home. We see our
12
families.
12 hours a day?
Some people.
Okay.
And then you go home and then you spend like an hour with your family, whatever, go to sleep, and then you repeat the whole cycle again.
Right.
So in a certain way, the people at the office have replaced your family because you see them all the time. And obviously you're going to have personal relationships like friend, best friend, you know, that kind of thing. Like, but at what point do you tell your boss, okay, you're crossing a boundary of I am working hard for you, but suddenly as soon as you're upset with me, like, you take it out on me when it's not really fair.
Right.
And for me, that's, firstly, it's really important to have an honest conversation.
Yeah.
So if you need to sit down with your employer and just tell them, okay, this is how I feel because I'm unhappy here that you are treating me in such a way, I don't think I can, like, be here any longer. You know, sometimes those conversations have to be had, especially, I mean, obviously you can't contribute much because you haven't had that experience. But for me, honesty is important. And I think that perhaps in the past, I've been a bit emotional when I'm at work because I didn't know how to deal with my anger or my frustrations or whatever. So I would, instead of talking about it, I'd keep quiet.
Right.
Like, I would not marajo, but I just, like, don't want to talk about it, and I'm, like, in a bad mood. But I've come to find that that is not productive for anybody.
Right.
So when I used to be upset at work, I would just keep quiet and keep it to myself. But now I realize I can't do that anymore. Well, also because now I work for myself, so I can talk to myself. But it's very important to have honest conversations at work.
Right.
Be it with your friends or with your boss, and just say, I can't do this anymore. We have to figure something out. If not, I need to move on.
Right.
But, you know, we spend so much time with people at work that you then become friends.
Right.
And with colleagues, it's, like, understandable because you're on the same level.
Right.
But can you truly be friends with your boss?
I don't know. I haven't had a boss long enough to make that distinction. But just from a opinion side, I think you can be friendly and you can have superficial, on the surface chat. Like, oh yeah, I heard you went for your kids' play the other day. How was it? I feel like that's the extent of it. You can't share your personal sides because the boundaries will be blurred, and then you don't know how to react in certain situations where it's supposed to be professional. So I don't know. What do you think?
I agree with you 110%. I feel like you are there to do a professional job.
Right.
And when emotions or intimate feelings, when I say intimate, I mean like close feelings.
Close friends,
like personal feelings. When you develop that with like a person who is above you,
right,
it becomes harder to work.
Exactly.
Because when something goes south or something goes bad, the intensity of it is like 1,000 times more.
And also it's just like your work gets affected in a way where your emotions get in the way.
Correct.
You know, just say this person is your friend, and then like they did something that you didn't like or vice versa, and your work will be compromised. And the point of your job is to do work, you know? So.
It's like when you get scolded by your boss and you have like a strictly professional relationship, like that's it. It can just end there, which I see with my husband. Like when he gets into, I'm not going to say conflicts, but when he gets into discussions, and it goes the way he doesn't want to, like he can come home, like, yes, he's upset, but he can like,
he doesn't have to worry about like, oh, where's our relationship going to happen? Where is it going to go now?
Right. But then as opposed to me, previously in previous jobs that I've had, is because the people that I worked with and I like had, you know, friendships, when we got to a place where we disagreed, for me, it was very hard.
Right.
And I would like hang on to it in the sense where I would like beat myself down and say, oh, I was wrong. Like, you know, maybe I shouldn't have said that. And like, I felt those emotions even more. Right. And it was very damaging. Like it's emotionally damaging.
For sure.
Because you can't let it go. Because you don't know, is this person my friend or my boss, you know? So personally for me, and whenever I talk to friends now, I always tell them, be very clear
where that line is.
Right. And I also do have friends who are employers. And I also tell them to be careful. Like, don't tell your staff that you love them. Like, you know, like, because they're your staff.
Right.
You can appreciate them.
Yeah,
you
show
can
appreciation.
But thank you, whatever. But don't go beyond that line. Because when something bad happens, it can go really bad.
Right.
And the opposite too, when something good happens, it can go like, it's really great. But great times don't last forever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for me, it's just when you're in a job situation, just be very clear. And I've never had, and I know a lot of people go through this, which is having a male boss.
Right.
And I know I've never been through that. I've never had a male boss. But I think that's when your boundaries have to be even more clear.
Yeah. For sure.
Because you're going to meetings with this person, you're always going to be working with that person, and you have to remember that in Islam as well, like you have to have boundaries.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so I think that's when I would like also really caution people that when you are working for a person who's higher up than you that is like of the opposite sex, to also just be very careful.
Right. So you work for yourself, right?
Yeah, so I currently work for myself. I used to work with companies and be around other people, but I realized that that wasn't the direction that I wanted to take for myself. So I decided to be brave, and with the blessing of my husband and my parents, I quit. And now I work for myself. I write. I enjoy writing. I'm doing this podcast. Right. I do little things for myself, and I think that in a way it's kind of harder because you're not guaranteed a certain paycheck at the end of the month.
Right. And also, how about your time, like clocking in? There's no clock in, clock out.
Oh, I can sleep in all day if I wanted to. Like, you know, like that's the danger of working for yourself, is that people think, oh, it's so fun. Like you get to like do whatever you want. It's actually not. It's a lot of pressure to make sure that you are being productive.
Right.
Yes, you can have like fun or you know, you can like go out and have lunch with your friends once in a while, whatever it may be, but there's also a certain sense of responsibility that, you know, I have to get this done, and there's nobody who's going to be watching over me.
Yeah.
What about you? What experiences have you had with working for yourself?
Yeah, no, it's definitely just the time thing. Like I have it in my mind, like, okay, I'm gonna work from 8 to 1 today. Gonna get up, you know, get breakfast and whatnot, but then, you know, Mama wants to go for groceries. So like, okay, I'll follow you to go groceries. And then we come back. It's like, oh, it's lunchtime. It's like, oh, Zuhur, you pray, whatnot. And then you're
could use a nap.
I could use a nap. I could start at 3. You know, it's just that's what bugs me the most. Like, I really want to get my hours in, but I can't because of, I mean, not that I can't. I'm not strong enough. I'm not disciplined enough to say like, okay, I'm going to start at 1:30, and I actually start at 1:30. Yeah. Actually, for my first couple of weeks, I was really good. Like, okay, 8 to 5. But like, that didn't happen. Yeah,
because I feel like when you're working in an office environment, you are pushed by everyone around you.
And you have that little punch card thing.
Yeah. No, Amal, they don't do punch cards.
They don't do that anymore?
I think now it's like thumbprints.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's really cool. But I think overall what we can take away from this is that jobs are hard. Keeping one, finding one, navigating through one.
Right.
And it's all part of like the journey.
Definitely.
And whatever it is, you just have to learn how to conduct yourself the best that you can. And there are always going to be certain situations where you don't know how you're going to navigate through it.
Right.
But you just have to.
Yep.
So if you have any questions about jobs, finding them, if you have any like issues at work that you
probably won't be able to help you much, but
we'd love to read about it. So comment them down below and subscribe. Is it which button?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It's
Subscribe to DOPStv for more podcasts from Amal and I. And inshallah, thank you so much for watching.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.